I'm really excited today. I have the pleasure of speaking with a great friend. He's an accomplished banker, Mark Few. He is a banker and a business leader. Mark has a wealth of knowledge for you, our listener. I'm excited to hear his insights today. I've got to say that I got to know Mark. It's probably been 2 or 3 years ago now, and got to know him. And when we were kind of working on starting a business together, and we got to know each other, and we went through some great times, and in fact, we went through some hard times together as well. But both in the good and the bad, the friendship has just gotten much better. My appreciation for Mark as a person, as a leader and as a business person, has just gotten greater and greater. Mark, I've talked a little bit about you professionally, but what I'd really like to know is let the listeners hear who you are as a person. Tell us about your family, and tell us a big picture about Mark Few.
Oh, wow. Well, Johnny, let's see. Been married to my lovely wife, Deb, for 42 years, the end of next month. I've got two beautiful daughters that could be more proud of. Um, Born and raised, well, so let me check that. I was born in Wichita, Kansas, but got to Texas as quick as my family would get me down here. So I consider myself a lifelong Texan. I've lived here my entire life, basically. Um, I've been a community banker for 40, oh gosh, let's see here, 47 years almost now. It was my
Wow.
first job out of high school. In fact, I was still in high school. My dad said if I got a job at the bank, he would help co-sign on my first car.
Wow.
So one thing led to
Outstanding.
another. Got the job and started out in the mailroom and really loved it, and ended up just working my way up the ladder, so to speak, to where I am now. So it's been a great ride and a wonderful time. It's made some really great friendships along the way.
What do you do for fun, Mark? What if I was going to hang out with you on a Saturday? What would we do?
Oh, Johnny, we'd probably be outside somewhere. I've got a little old Jeep that I like to tool around in, and we'd probably have the doors off and just taking the back roads and enjoying the scenery. And if we found a place to stop and have a hamburger and a cold beer, we'd probably be doing that.
That's great. That's great. Well, you're the senior vice president of First State Bank of Burnet. For those listeners who are not familiar with Burnet, tell us where Burnet is and what Burnet
Okay.
is.
Well, first of all, let's start with it's burn it, just like darn it, but
Oh,
we say burn it. Okay.
Burnet. Okay.
Common mistake. No big deal. Burnet is located about 45 miles northwest of Austin, right in the smack dab middle of the Texas Hill Country. We're about 10 minutes east of Lake Buchanan, the largest lake in the Highland Lakes chain. And that probably drives a lot of the growth there in that small area. Small town. I'm a small town guy. I love it because of one, just the people and the character and the attitude of the population, but also the ability within the bank to be able to help out and to really see those tangible benefits of what the bank can do in the area. I've been a small town community banker my entire career.
Talk to me. We met while you were a banker in Austin.
Hmm.
I had moved from Amarillo, and kind of a small town boy myself, from a little town in West Texas named Dimmitt, where we make sure that people know how to say the name as well. So I'm glad you corrected me on that. But tell me, have you been in both big towns and small towns your whole career? And then I want to focus a little bit on the community bank in a minute. But tell me about big town versus little town, if you
Well,
would.
I was when we met. Yeah, I was working in Austin, but prior to going to work for the company that where we met, I was working for a state trade association that primarily were focused exclusively on small town community banks, and have been involved and been very active in that organization. Still am for a number of years, and through some contacts, that's kind of how I ended up where I was when we met. But it's just a world of difference between an Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, if you will, and a Burnet or Dimmitt or pick your small town in the way that the banks operate. It's more um, your bigger banks, to me, you're a number, and you're calling someplace that's probably not in your community. A decision is going to be made typically not in your community. But the beauty of the small town bank is that I'm going to see you at the football game or the youth stock show
Right.
or the basketball game or church or whatever it may be. And I'm probably going to know a little bit more about you, and you're going to know a little bit more about me than if we were to pass each other on the sidewalk in Austin, let's say. So there's a little bit deeper knowledge. There's a little bit of a deeper relationship. Sometimes that's a great thing, and sometimes that can mean not so great a thing.
Right. Right.
But the positives far, I think, outweigh the negative.
Yes. Well, I think back growing up in Dimmitt, which was a little smaller than, uh, uh, tell me again, Burnet, right?
Yeah, yeah, you
In
got it.
Burnet, and but I remember my father would not go outside of this little town to buy a car. We did all of our shopping, clothes shopping, everything in that small town. A lot of that has changed through the years where people go buy cars, they go to, some of the big box stores. But I kind of get the feeling that people in small communities continue to rely heavily on the community bank that's in that very town. Do you think that's correct?
That's absolutely correct. There's a loyalty factor there and your dad, I think the example you gave there is perfect. That, I've done business with customers for a number of years. I know that maybe they're going through a rough patch, and it's not always a black and white answer. I know the character of a Johnny Merritt, let's say. And as such, yeah, it may be a little bit of a slow time. He may be hitting a rough patch, but I know that if Johnny says he's going to pay me back or he's going to be in on Tuesday at 9 to talk about what we need to do to get him back on his feet, then he's done it before. He's going to do it again. So that's where you see that relationship build up. And chances are, I may have helped Johnny's kids get their first car or get their first house or start their first checking account or savings account. So there's a deep, goes a lot deeper than that. And chances are I've made maybe some good customers out of family members, et cetera. So it it's just something that's really hard to put down on paper, but when you see it in practice, you just get that, aha, I see it, I understand it, this is how it works.
Well, and the Mark was kind enough to invite me to come visit his bank a couple of months ago, and we went out to lunch, and Mark, who's a senior vice president, actually had invited the president to go with us. And as we were going into the cafe, the president held the door for everybody that was walking in, and then everybody in the restaurant knew everybody else. And so it was just such a great thing. For those of you who haven't experienced small town life, it's an experience that's great and bad, as Mark indicated. Let's talk. Define community bank for me. We've kind of talked about it, but what is a community bank versus what is not a community bank?
That's tough. You're going to get, I think if you ask 10 different people, like 10 different bankers, especially that question, you're going to get 10 different answers. In Mark's opinion, or Mark's answer, I look at a community bank as my headquarters for the bank are in a small town. I'm probably going to be a smaller bank. And when I say a smaller bank, I mean 500 million in assets or less. I could be a little bit bigger than that, but for the most part, I'm going to be less than $1 billion. And my branches are usually all in smaller towns. I'm servicing smaller local communities. My portfolio, both on the loan and deposit side, are geared towards small business customers, the mom and pop shops, the mom and pop stores, the farmer, the rancher. That's what I look at as a community bank. And I'm usually very active with my staff, and the bank are very active both monetarily and with our time in the community doing different things.
I remember there used to be a club in high school. This was decades ago, called Key Club. And there was a time that I was president of Key Club, and I can remember having the opportunity to go into First State Bank of Dimmitt, and we were asking the president of the bank, and he had me come into the boardroom, and we were asking him to pay for a scoreboard at the football field, and he did that, and that's a community bank. You guys invest heavily both in terms of time, personnel, and money in your community. And let's talk about that for a second. Tell me kind of what your bank was doing and what your community was doing to help each other during the COVID crisis.
Well, with COVID, the bank basically, we just took a position that if, an immediate family member had been exposed, you needed to stay home and take care of them. We weren't docking sick time. We weren't charging that to vacation time. You were still getting paid. You didn't need to worry about bills. You just go take care of that family member. If it happened with employees, same thing applied. I mean, you take care of yourself, get yourself well. You still got vacation. You still got unused sick time. We're not going to, dock your pay, or you're going to come up in June and go, well, now I have no vacation. I have no sick time left. We tried to help out there wherever we could, and it's worked out fine. Everybody banded together and just covered for each other where the situation arose where we had somebody out. Not, knock on wood, we've dodged a major issue with it. So that's been good.
That's incredible, Mark. Well done. Let's talk some about leadership. You've been you started as a teller. How long do you think that you've been in a leadership position in your profession, Mark?
Probably, I have to think here, over 35 years.
So tell me what leadership means to you, and what you think are the most important traits of leadership.
Johnny, when I started out, and when I got into a role where I was managing people, my dad probably gave me the best advice that I've held on to. And he said, son, I'm proud of you. He said, but please understand this. You don't need to ask anybody to do anything that you yourself would not do, or you yourself have not done. He said, that's the fastest way that you're going to earn their respect. And when they see you out there doing things that maybe somebody else, another leader wouldn't do, or another manager wouldn't do, they'll understand that, they'll walk on coals for you, so to speak. And I've tried to live by that ever since. I mean, I'm not above picking up trash in the parking lot. I'm not above moving the boxes, and I've seen employees, caught them looking like, what is he doing that for? Well, I can do it just as easy as you can. So there's no reason for me not to do it. And it's worked out very well for me, having that philosophy.
And I saw that since I've known Mark. I've seen a real servant's heart. When we were interacting before, I could see that you were that type of person, and you empower people around you by doing that. When they see you doing that type of stuff, and talk about relationships, Mark. And you've referred to that by how you interact with people. Nothing is below you, but tell me, are relationships important? And let me kind of put it in a different context. As attorney, I often think I just got to keep my nose down. I just got to work and work and work, shut my door, build hours. And yet, as I get older, particularly, it seems to me that perhaps that may have not always been the best thing, that perhaps relationships are more important. So talk to me with any thoughts on that, Mark.
Sure. I'm like you, Johnny. I mean, especially early in my career, it was nose to the grindstone. Just that focus on achieving the goals that we had set for the bank for whatever that particular year. You step back. At some point, you realize, first of all, there's more to life than just this job. Okay,
right.
There's a work-life balance, and so what I've tried to do is, I want to know about my employees, what's going on in their personal life, because as everyone knows, whatever's going on in their personal life is going to bleed over to their work life in some form or fashion,
Right.
either good or bad. So what's going on? Is it something we can help you with? But most importantly is, and I've told my employees this ever since I've been in the management role, look, if you've got a child that's got a play at school or a ball game, or you need to be at a doctor's appointment or whatever, you better be there. We'll figure it out. We'll get by until you get back, because that moment you'll never have it again.
Right.
And if little Johnny or little Darla looks up and doesn't see you in the audience or sitting in the bleachers because you're at work, I'm not going to be happy, because
Right.
you should have been there to support them. The bank will be here tomorrow. That moment will not. It has passed you by, and then you might have missed something. Yeah, you could have somebody video it on a cell phone nowadays, or whatever, but that's not the same. That's not the same as being there to cheer them on, or hold their hand when they're getting a shot at the doctor's office or whatever. So that's I've really tried to emphasize that. The other thing I try to do is, look, none of us want to work. I mean, if we could all have a rich uncle or win the lottery and live a life of leisure, it'd be great. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So let's make work fun. Let's have a good time. Let's keep it relaxed. Let's keep it loose. If a mistake gets made, we'll fix it. Okay.
Right.
No, there's not a one of us on here that walked on water, that, as far as I know. There's only one person that's ever done that. And the rest of us, we're going to sink and swim and get back on the boat and try again. We'll figure it out. If you make a mistake and it was because you were just trying to do your job, and we'll fix it. Don't be afraid. Don't worry about it. Let's just have fun. Let's kid around. Let's cut up. I think it's very important to have that kind of an atmosphere, because when the customers see us all having fun with each other, it bleeds over to them and they enjoy it. They like to come into the bank because they're always smiling, they're always laughing, they're always cutting up.
I love that answer, Mark. I read every day a daily devotion by John Maxwell, as you know, and one thing that he says, and I've read it for several years, but one thing he says is, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying it hard enough. And
That's right.
so, and I'll tell you, for those people that work for me, once they come to you and admit that they've made a mistake, and frankly, I, as their superior, take ownership of it and say, it's not your mistake, it's our mistake. And way to go, way to try. We can fix it.
Yeah.
But take ownership of it as a team member. The next time you interact with that person, there's loyalty, there's love. It's just something that you can't replace. And we've both been in a position where we've seen the opposite of that, where
Yes.
where someone doesn't want to take, a leader doesn't want to take ownership of anyone who's working in their arena, and it just creates problems that you can avoid. And so I love that answer. I love that answer a lot. Let me ask you this, Mark. I don't know exactly who my audience is, but with the people that I have on, what I'm hoping to have is younger people in many different industries that are trying to think about, what is it that I need to do to be successful? And so let's just assume that there's a young Mark Few out there, maybe a little more hair, a little darker hair on their face, but and they think, I really want to be a banker. I think I want to be a banker. Tell them what they need to do to be, in your mind, a successful banker, both in terms of their happiness and in terms of the customers and their employer.
Okay. Well, I mean, first of all, the cliche, love what you do. Okay. If you're going to go into that and you're going to, it's just another numbers thing, and that's all I'm looking at it as, you're not going to be happy. I think probably one thing that people will find this a little bit strange, or maybe shocked to hear me say this, is you got to care.
Yeah.
You're in a people business. I
Yes.
mean, you're dealing with people's money. You're dealing with people's livelihood. Uh, into everyone's life, a little rain is going to fall at some point. And the compassion that you can show them, the ability to help them while still maintaining your fiduciary duty to the bank will pay off in just hugely dividends down the road. I think it's not about the old, all I'm looking at is, okay, a balance sheet, black and white numbers, and it's a yes or no. Sometimes it's not. And I've seen that too many times. So, if you've got a finance degree, that's great. That helps you get there. And then young Mark Few, get in on the ground floor at a small bank and work your way up, get exposed to as much as you possibly can in all areas of the bank. And it's great.
Is there a certain person, Mark, that or maybe it's more than one person, maybe it's two people, but that if they were listening to this, you would want to say, you know what, you're the guy that helped me make the banker that I am. Who would that be and why?
There's one guy named Walt Townsley. Walt's no longer with us, but he took me under his wing at a very early stage, and I learned a ton from Walt. And probably one of the smartest guys I knew, and one of the most compassionate guys I knew. And then another guy named Kevin Tucker, who got me involved at a bank just south of Dallas, and was a great mentor and helped me along the way. I think both those guys would be I owe a great deal of thanks to.
And what part did you have? And again, I'm thinking about the young banker finding a mentor. And what part did you have in developing that relationship? What could a young banker do to develop that relationship with someone?
I think in both cases, I knew I didn't know either one of them until I went and met them to interview for a job, and then it was just kind of like, okay, if this works out, these are the guys that I kind of want to hitch my wagon to learn. And I was fortunate enough that both of them were willing to allow me to hitch my wagon to them. I actually worked in Walt's. I mean, I had a desk in Walt's office. We sat side by side for 3 years working together, and he was turning around and handing me things and go, okay, take this. This is how you do it. Here's what we do. And then, and Kevin was the same way. I office right next door to him. And so just learning the ropes and having those conversations after work, not necessarily during banking hours, but you got to be willing to either come in early or stay a little later, because
Right.
a lot of times that's where you learn some of the more nuanced things that you're not going to pick up in that 8 to 5 slot.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that a lot.
That's great. I wish that they could hear you say this, and maybe they are. We hope
Yeah,
that
maybe
they
they
are.
are. Maybe they are.
Before I leave the bacon industry, tell me about how bankers should think about bank customers. And I'm going to leave it that broad, because I think that I think I think that I'm just going to leave it that broad.
You shouldn't think of a bank customer as just a number. It's just another, I'm going to look at the total relationship, and are you a profitable relationship for the bank, or are you not a profitable relationship for the bank? Because, Johnny, as I've said since we started talking, I mean, it's a relationship thing. I believe that with all my heart. And, I may have XYZ Corporation over here that keeps $5 million in the bank. Well, yeah, that's a no-brainer. They're a profitable customer. But I also may have Mrs. Johnson over here, who's a 95-year-old widow living Social Security check to Social Security check, and maybe she stubbed her toe and she forgot to write something down in her check register, and she's got a hot check. She's freaking out. Seen it too many times.
Right.
Mrs. Johnson, don't you worry about it. We're not going to charge you any kind of fee. We got this
Right.
check covered. So let's see what we can do to get you back on your feet and get you where you need to be. That means just as much to me as XYZ Corporation with $5 million in the bank does.
And you guys that are listening, that's the Mark Few. He's not blowing smoke. That's the Mark Few that I've learned to know. I'm kind of shift kind of into the legal arena, but before I do that, there's one additional question I wanted to ask about relating to the banking industry. I think that sometimes that we lawyers can feel very special because we have something on our wall. And yet I have found that I'm just in the service industry like every other service business. And I don't know, is that sometimes true in the banking industry as well, that people can feel like they're kind of in a white collar, let's just use their white collar job as opposed to blue collar, which means that they're a little more important. Is that true in the banking business as well?
I think to some respect, it would be. You and I have been down the road on a previous endeavor, and there's probably some within that industry that felt like they were a little special. But I think by and large, for the most part, at least the circles that I run in, most of the guys that I know in this industry are as down to earth as they come. You're going to see them at the football game. You're going to see them at the baseball game. You're going to see them at church. You're going to see them with their sleeves rolled up, doing what they need to do to help out. I don't hang out and probably wouldn't run around with those that are going to put themselves on a pedestal because, hey, I'm a banker or I'm a president of a bank or I'm a chairman of a bank. And, you need to go through these people before you can talk to me. That's not my thing at all.
Yeah, and I'm sure that we're all. I love that answer, Mark, and everybody's a little different, but I really think that a servant's heart is important in every aspect, regardless of what position that you're in. Do you? And I think this is particularly true. A good question for you as being in a small bank in a small town where things have always been the same and always run the same. Is that good, or do you need to be looking for ways to improve? And that's really a hard question that I'm asking you, being in a small town bank, and I don't mean this to cause you to be critical of anyone. I just am curious.
No, Johnny, it's kind of scary you asked that question, honestly.
Yeah.
It is not a hard question. If we don't improve, we will be gone. If I don't embrace technology, because that's what people want nowadays. I need to be able to bank on my phone. I need to be able to take a picture of a check. I need to be able to, DocuSign a document and send it back without having to come to the bank. Those days of carving out, an hour or two to go to the bank and do all the paperwork and get everything done, those days are gone. They're no more. We're bombarded day in and day out. And when I say we, I don't mean bankers. I mean us as consumers. Hey, go to Capital One. In 5 minutes, you can open a checking account and have a cup of coffee and get on your iPad and surf the internet. I have to be able to, at some level, compete with that. If I stay, just like you said, doing it the same way in the small town that I've always done it, I won't be around long. It's just not going to happen. The Wells Fargos and the bank and the Capital Ones and the Chases of the world, they're going to wake up one day and they're going to figure out, okay, I need to get those deposits. I need to get those loans. And they're going to start figuring out ways to come poach my customers. Well, I've got to have that technology so that it's hard for a Johnny Merritt to move his business, if you will. Okay. Right. You don't want to go through the hassle of setting all up a new internet banking and putting a new app on your phone. I want to be able to have, to be blunt, to have the hooks in you that you'll stay with me as long as you continue to stay in business. Okay.
Right.
we recognize that. And when you met our president and we had lunch, and I think you see, both of us are relatively new to the bank, but our board has realized that we need to start adopting newer technologies and embracing those things and getting them in for our customers so that we can continue to A, keep market share, and B, grow. Because as you well know, and this is one of the hottest areas in Texas
Right.
from a growth standpoint. It's crazy.
Right. I love that, Mark. And Mark and I are the same age. I think we're on the cusp of 60, and the reason I say that is, we're probably for perhaps some of the listeners, most listeners to podcasts, we're ancient. And yet, at our age, we are still thinking, both of us in our various industries, of the need to change the paradigm, figure out a better way, a cheaper way, a better way for our customers, an easier way for our clients. And so I appreciate that, and I know that we've talked about that, and I love that about you, Mark. I've talked a lot about I talk a lot on this podcast about how I want to change the paradigm in the legal system. That there's it seems to me has been a natural disconnect, if you will, between attorneys and their clients because of the hourly system. We discourage clients from calling us. Because they're afraid that they're going to get a bill at the end of the month, and let's not call until we just absolutely have to. And so I've been trying to think of ways to avoid that, and I've come up with this fractional general counsel concept that frankly is working really well for my existing clients. And let me tell the listener, I don't have this relationship with Mark or his bank, and frankly don't expect to. They're very loyal to the banks. They're in their hometown. But talk to me about what would be your concerns or thoughts about having a bank that you're doing business, a bank that you work with, having a relationship with an attorney in a fractional general counsel, and perhaps you have that relationship.
Well, we don't currently, Johnny. I think my concern there's a couple of things I thought about. The first thing that came to mind was, okay, have the attorney and I slotted enough hours to cover my needs? Okay, because if I haven't, well, I've kind of defeated the whole purpose of having this.
Right.
But by the same token, am I going too far and I'm not utilizing, I don't want to be calling, I'm going to use you, okay, as an example.
Sure.
I don't want to be calling you just to be coming up with things so that I've taken advantage of whatever my hours are that we've agreed upon.
Right.
And I guess the third thing would be, okay, what happens then if I have a major issue come up and now I need, we're going to have to separate that out, obviously, because that's separate than what we've doing. So I think as long as everybody knows going in, okay, this is the arrangement. This is what I'm looking at from a customer or client standpoint. And this is what the expectation is on the attorney side. I think it would work fine. I don't know that I would have a whole lot of concern as long as everybody understands going in, this is what it is.
Right. And let me tell you, Mark, what we have, it's good to be, a couple or 3 years into this, because our goal, frankly, is our relationship can be canceled at any time by the client. There's no that we sign an engagement letter, but if they're unhappy, they can start it on Friday and end it on Monday. And my goal is, we used to, on cell phone plans, we had what were called free minutes, and they weren't really free because we paid for them, but we had so many minutes. But my goal is for and it's happened well, is to save the client a lot of money. We show on our bills the hours we're putting in, what their bill would be if they were in an hourly rate, and frankly, we have consistently saved our clients lots of money because of the continuing relationship, and frankly, it allows us to get to know them a lot better and what their needs are and what their goals are and what the big picture is for that client. I met with a new client yesterday, and that's where I started with my question. My first question to him is, what's your big picture? What does your big picture look like? Mm-hmm. But I got to tell you, Mark, it's there's some selfish motive here as well, because what we found is as we have used this system, these clients want to use us more and more and more. And so in spite of the fact that we're saving them money, the monthly retainer is after 6 months is going up almost universally, because they found that they rely on us and like to rely on us. And we want to make it as close as we can to, I'm just 2 offices down from you. It's as if I'm your general counsel. So love your answer. How have you supervised or been hired attorneys, Mark?
Yes.
In your so tell me in those instances, how could those attorneys have served you better? What could they have done that would have helped you and would have made you happier, would have given better client satisfaction, frankly?
Oh, I think probably, the first thing, obviously, a little bit cheaper rate.
Right.
I mean,
yes.
You don't realize how much the meter's running.
Sure.
Because just to your point earlier, I mean, I'm afraid to call because I'm getting billed for a call and whatever that number is, and then pretty soon you may think, okay, well, that was, it's not that much, and this is not that much. Well, then all of a sudden, those nickels and dimes that you think aren't adding up, they have added up big time.
Right.
So I think they probably serving me better would have been, hey, it's the 15th of the month. Just here's a snapshot statement of where you are right now. Whoa,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Well, maybe I need to back off a little bit, or who's calling you and burning at this time? Let's look at that too. So I think a better communication between the two of us would have been good.
That's a great.
I think you look into the old way, I guess, if to look at it, and it's just been pick up the phone, call the attorney, get your answer, get the document drawn up, whatever it is, and then you're getting a bill, and it's like, everybody starts griping about the bill. Well, you know what? Honestly, you probably should have. You're not buying that car, are you, without looking at what the sticker is going to run you?
Right.
So maybe you need to be talking to the attorney about, well, where am I? And hey, we need to dial this down a little bit, or okay, what could you do to help us maybe alleviate some of this? Yeah, I'm a bank, but I still got to watch my bottom line too.
Yeah, and for our listeners, I love that answer because, particularly for new attorneys, you're going to find that what Mark is saying is true. There is a perception out there, and it's not a perception; it's the truth. That listen, this is going to get expensive. Hit my bottom line, and we as a profession need to figure out how to be different, how to change that paradigm. How can we partner better with our clients where we're providing services where they want to call you? They want to call you and because they want that contract to be right. And so how do we develop that relationship through fee billing, through communication or whatever to improve that?
Well, Johnny, I'll use this example. So you and I are working together, okay? And I'm going to go into the old arrangement. So we're working on the contractors, and we get done. You send me the bill, and it's like, oh my God, I had no idea.
Right.
Well, then I have to take this up the food chain to get the check signed so I can pay you.
Right.
And I'm getting called on the carpet, so to speak.
Right.
Well, so do you think the next time I'm going to use you as much because of the pain I had to go through to get this bill signed?
Exactly.
So that's where, to your point earlier, and to your listeners should take note. That's where you run into this is, okay, I'm not going to call you. And a lot of times I may not call you until the dam is broken, if it's that kind of a situation.
Right.
And it could have been something you as an attorney could have taken care of much sooner with a lot less pain.
Gosh, what a great answer. And so let me give you kind of an example, Mark, and the listeners an example of what happened last year. I had a client, we're charging them $3,500 a month. And you got to have enough legal work to justify that. I mean, that's quite a bit of legal work to justify that. And we rocked along and rocked along and rocked along until December. And when he figured out he had a tax problem and he now needed to move quickly on purchasing his property, his bill in December would have been $16,000. And he called me and said, you know what, Johnny, I know we've viewed you and we're going to owe you more money. And I said, no, you're not. You're going to owe us $3,500. And all of a sudden that paradigm switches, that the thought process of that client and that client started right where you were. And it was through the relationship that's built over a year where he sees, you know, I'm a partner with you. I'm here to help you. And so I love that, those answers. And I've got a question and that I've written here, and I think you've got, so I'll just go ahead and ask it. What are the 3 qualities an attorney needs to effectively partner with his or her business clients?
Communication. Okay. We have to talk. We got to be, even if there's nothing going on, let's just keep the channel open. Let's talk about it. The second thing I would want from my attorney would be, I need you to be looking out for me from a legal standpoint, but also, hey, this is coming down the pike, maybe from a regulatory or the law or an HR perspective, whatever it may be. Have you guys thought about this? Well, no, I'm running the bank. I'm taking care of my day to day, and I'm, you know, as with everyone, the blinders are on, and all I'm worried about is what's going on today. So you know, be there to kind of at least put things in front of me. Maybe you're sending out a little weekly newsletter, a blurb. That's all. I don't. You know, if I want to delve into it deeper, then I can get back to you and talk about it. The last thing, the third thing, I want somebody that can advise me, that can give me an ear, shoot straight with me, and say, yeah, you're on the right track. This is the right thing to do. On the other side of that, can say, that's the stupidest thing you've ever done. Now think it through, step back, sleep on it, and let's talk about it tomorrow. I want that kind of relationship with my attorney, with my counsel. Look at the word. I mean, you know, that's what I want. I need to have value in that. I need to have trust. We need to be able to trust each other.
And it seems to me that I love that answer. Gosh, and I'm going to play that over and over again, Mark, so I can think about it. But to develop that relationship, you can't bill for every. I mean, I can't be billing you for every minute that you call me. But the point is, if you develop that relationship, the money takes care of itself, because you when you develop that close relationship with the client, when they need something, they call you. A quick story, and then I've got 2 more questions, Mark, and we'll be done. All my clients have my cell phone number. My partners think I'm nuts for doing that. My wife, and I may have told you this story, but my wife, she hates for me to look at my phone in church. And listen, I get it. But there was one Sunday morning that my phone started buzzing in church, and I looked down, and I could feel the heat of my wife as she was staring at me. But it was a very devout Church of Christ man who would not have been calling on Sunday morning unless there was something. And so I walked outside, and his son had been killed the night before. And as a business attorney, there's not a thing I could do about that. But there was a relationship there where he just wanted to talk. And those are the type of relationships that I love to have with clients, is first you think of the person as a person. And then if you do that and you have a servant's heart, the business takes care of itself.
Absolutely.
Do you have any similar stories to that, Mark?
Well, Johnny, I mean that's a community banker. I mean that we all have our cell phones as well, and our cell phone numbers are on our business cards. Well, they're on our business cards for a reason, so that you can call me. You may call me at 7 o'clock at night. Hey, I forgot to make the deposit today, or hey, I've had this opportunity come up, and I need to see about getting a loan. Come on in, let's talk about it. Hey, I know you forgot to make the deposit. Just get it in tomorrow when you can. Don't worry about it. I'll cover everything that comes through. It's that speaks volumes to that having that
Right.
relationship, and
Right.
so get it completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always end with the same question, but I've got one question before that. As I look over your shoulder, I see a picture of John Wayne. Why is that picture there?
That picture was given to me by my dad, kind of as a joke, and so I put it up there on the wall. I, some of my friends tell me I was probably born about 150 years too late. I'm a big old West guy and really get into that, and so that adorns the study.
Well,
Takes a
that's
place of
great.
honor.
That's great. Well, here's the question I always end on, and I hope the listener will forgive me. I hope you will, because I read it because I just like it. In the spirit of shifting the law, what is your best advice for our current and aspiring law professional audience on how legal counsels can serve business clients such as yourself as principal partners and advisors, not just lawyers?
Okay, I underlined the key word in that whole question to me, advisor. That's what I'm looking for. I may not want to talk to you about just a legal issue sometimes. Maybe it's a business issue. Maybe it's an HR issue. Maybe I need somebody outside of my circle to give me some advice on the strategy for the bank, the problem I'm dealing with, and to know that there is a good, open, honest, trusting relationship between the two of us. If we have that, then like you said earlier, the money's going to take care of itself. Chances are the referrals are going to be coming in because I'm going to be telling my counterparts, hey, this is who I use and this is what he's done for me.
Well, ladies, the great answer, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, if you need a great banker, a guy that everything he said you've heard, I've seen it, I've witnessed it, and if you need a good banker, call Mark Few at First State Bank of Burnet, and he will teach
Thanks,
you how to
Johnny.
say the name correctly, and you will be so happy that you did. Mark, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for
Appreciate
taking
it.
time out of your day, and we loved having you on our program.
All right, man. Thanks.